And now, the news. And in this week's edition, London drivers spent a week stuck in traffic, Ford keeps finding creative ways to hurt its owners, and Donald Trump saves Lotus. 6 miles, or roughly 10 kilometers. That's the measurement used in TomTom's annual Traffic Index report, which analyzes worldwide speeds to determine things like congestion and average speed. To put that into perspective, that distance would do 3 laps of the Vatican, of Auschwitz, or Epstein Island, take your pick. But how long should that take in a car? 5 minutes on a highway? 10 minutes in town? Maybe 20 if the traffic is bad. Well, drivers in London could only dream of such speeds, because for the 3rd year in a row, it's won the not-so-coveted Slowest Capital City of the Year award. On average, to cover 6 miles in London will take you 35 minutes. That's an average speed of a little over 10 miles an hour, or to put it another way, slower than a professional runner takes to cover the same distance. The report goes on to say the average London driver will lose 141 hours of their life during rush hour annually, or 5.8 full days. Remind me again the reasons management gave for pulling everyone back into the office after COVID? Anyway, some of the reasons given for these ridiculous numbers by TomTom were the 20 mile per hour speed limits covering most of London, and the fact that the roads were built in an age where horses were the dominant mode of transport. There's no real happy ending to the story, but if you are one of the poor miserable people stuck in this gridlocked hell each day, I genuinely hope you find some way out of it, or a job that makes it worth enduring. So after trolling us with the K-Truck at Tokyo Auto Salon earlier this month, Toyota have now confirmed a new MR2 is coming.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm! Wait.
But keep your wallets, among other things, in your pants for now. It's likely a good 4 to 5 years away. Toyota's Gazoo Racing president, Tomoya Takahashi, has confirmed that a mid-engine sports car is coming, but that it's in the first of 4 engineering stages prior to mass production. The car will be powered by Toyota's new 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, currently being tested, and will likely have a hybrid setup too. The company is committed to internal combustion, but concedes that given the stringent Euro 7 emissions guidelines, hybrid has effectively become mandatory.
Y'all laughed at me! Well, who's laughing now?
And you know what? If that saves internal combustion, then so be it. There's nothing more annoying than feeling like you're under attack from aliens, only to see an EV drive by. Or get duped by some amazing sound pulling up to the lights, only to see a Taycan and know that the sound is being pumped out by speakers and not by burning a dinosaur. I have no issues with an electric motor giving me some nice low-down torque while my engine struggles to spool up the giant turbo attached to it. Just don't take it away, that's all I ask. Anyway, the motor is intended to be used in front, mid, or rear engine configurations, meaning Toyota is staking a lot on getting it right. The prototypes using this engine are also being race tested, meaning that when the MR2 does finally go on sale, it may become a cult classic from day one. Lotus has been on a downward spiral. The car company famous for being British and infamous for being Chinese reportedly lost $263 million in the first half of last year, and also showed 550 workers in the UK the door.
Now I'm panicking.
Don't panic.
No, I am, because I'm going to lose my job.
Couple that with the fact that they've gone balls deep on EVs, and we could all see how the story was going to end. Right? Wrong. Because it's found itself an unlikely savior, Donald Trump. The Oros man might have a vendetta against EVs to the point where you'd think one touched him as a child, but even he isn't powerful enough to stop their rise. And we're going to have to get our conspiracy hats out for this one, but trust me, it's worth it. And look, I made a real one. Because the one I had digitally altered, look, it's got a mohawk. What do you see? Yeah, look at that, look at that, look at the mohawk. Because the one that I digitally altered in, was it last week's episode? I think it was last week's episode. To stay on my head, even though I barely move, was a worse use of time than Victoria Beckham stealing her son's first dance at his wedding. Here are 3 things the President of the United States does not like. China, EVs, and Chinese EVs. Well, people have had enough. After imposing massive tariffs on Chinese EVs, and strong-arming Canada to do the same, he then turned on America's closest ally. Canadians are patient people, but even they have their limits. The abusive relationship between the US and Canada seems to have reached breaking point. Canada realized they can't wait in the hopes that they can fix him, so they've started waving their maple leaves elsewhere instead. Canada and China therefore have now closed a deal that drops duties and tariffs on a whole host of items, but the one we care about is the Chinese EV tariffs in Canada that are dropping from 106 to 6%. Additionally, up to 49,000 Chinese EVs are allowed to be imported annually into Canada, and here's where Lotus comes in. Their EVs are made in China, meaning they're directly affected by these tariffs. They effectively couldn't sell these cars in Canada because EVs aren't cheap and Lotuses aren't cheap. Slap 100% tariff on them too, and who's going to buy a Lotus over basically anything else? Now, they've just seen a market already friendly to EVs, except in Alberta because open up to pretty much their whole model range. They're expecting to slash 50% off the price of the vehicles when this policy goes through. This could actually save Lotus. Last year, they made the hilarious claim that they wanted to ship 100,000 vehicles by 2028. Considering they only shipped under 3,000 in the first half of last year, this was a pretty bold statement. So where exactly is the conspiracy here? Well, it should be obvious to you by now. Donald Trump got paid a hell of a lot of money in the first half of 2025 by Lotus to push Canada away and into China's arms, thereby allowing Lotus to start importing cars into Canada and boost their sales. Well, now they can scribble their names into Trump's big, beautiful book of achievements, because he might have just saved them. Kia, not being content with literally killing off their soul, is now figuratively doing the same to the Niro. When it was introduced in 2016, it came with that weird mouth that was typical of Kias of the time. But even so, it had angry little eyes that said, "I'm coming for you." And based on my experience with Niro drivers in the UK, that was pretty accurate. I've seen very few models on the road with angrier drivers. No idea why, and I dare not ask, just something I've noticed. Then we got the 2021 facelift. Gone was the Kia mouth, and the new talking point was its monobrow. It's so prevalent you can be forgiven for missing its beady, soulless eyes that replaced the animated ones of the first generation. Now, it's getting a facelift. And this facelift completes its journey to full Android/Robocop vibe. Any hint of a personality is now gone. The monobrow has been carved into the eyes, there's less nose than Voldemort, and the mouth is that of a robot that wants to wipe out humanity. The rear is an improvement though. It looks less like a 2008 Ford Focus and more like a Kia now. And the inside has received some nice touches that make it look way too expensive for this car. It's a nice upgrade, with slightly revised steering wheel, bigger 12.3-inch screen, and some material changes. But I guarantee the interior of this car will be nicer than the interior of the house it'll park in front of. Volvo have made some announcements this week. The first is the EX60, a more or less EV version of the XC60, their best-selling vehicle of all time. Yes, as of last year, the legendary 240 has been dethroned by some SUV whose only talking point is that it's their best ever selling vehicle. To be clear, I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying it's a car. Yep, a car. There. That is some car right there. The EX40 is being built on their new platform which will underpin the future of Volvo, with notable improvements in connectivity, charging capability, and production efficiency. So boring, so financially responsible, so Volvo. It looks like a new Volvo SUV, which in Volvo's world is probably the best compliment you could give them. It's a nice evolution of an inoffensive vehicle. But in the real world, it's just another forgettable piece of metal that's going to serve its owner well until they upgrade. If I have to push, comparing it to the XC60 is like comparing some of the Iron Man suits. Same idea, slightly prettier, but still exactly what you expect. The only gripe I have with the car is its interior. Once again, a distinct lack of buttons, and for some reason the steering wheel isn't round. Another trend started somewhere that all the design sheep are now following. And it doesn't look like a car interior to me. It looks like some minimalist design mock-up of a rich person's lounge done by an interior design student. So I guess unlike the exterior, I'm not apathetic to its lack of design, I'm actually offended by it. So congratulations Volvo, you managed to extract something other than apathy with your design. And that is the new best compliment you could give Volvo. Second on the list is a short piece about the future of the brand's lineup. They'd initially gone fully into EVs to meet the EU's 2035 deadline, then threw a massive hissy fit when the deadline was altered. Not content to sit and pout though, they've recognized the need to cater to the customer and have announced the XC40, XC60 and XC90 will be continued as hybrid models for as long as there's a demand for them. They'll also be developed in partnership with Geely, their Chinese overlords, but there's no word on whether this will lead to Volvo-based underpinnings or the car will effectively be Geely's, wearing Volvo's Sfeerige Drekten. And now for It Just Slipped Out, the segment where we cover recalls from the past week. This week has served up a blinder with seemingly every car in the world getting some sort of recall, so strap yourselves in and hope your seatbelt isn't one of the things being recalled. Last week we spoke about Ford's C4 airbags. Well, this week we're talking about their pyromaniac engines. At what point do we accept that every part fitted to a Ford is capable of some sort of terrorist activity? The accused this week are Ford and Lincoln models in the US fitted with their 2-liter engine. Said vehicles were produced from October 2011 to August 2019, with the models affected including Ford Escapes, Ford Focuses, and Lincoln MKCs. Apparently the models were fitted with an engine block heater which has soldering that can develop cracks. Long story short, this causes a short circuit and eventually a fire. It should be noted that this is only a risk when the engine block heater is plugged in. Affected owners will be notified between February and April of this year. If that's all the Ford you thought you were getting, you're sorely mistaken because we have another 3 recalls on blue oval vehicles this week. For those of you who buckled up at the beginning of this segment, I hope it wasn't with a Mustang seatbelt, because if so, it was nice knowing you. Mustangs produced from February 2014 to October 2017 could see their seatbelt pre-tensioner cables rust, causing it to weaken or break. This would in all likelihood be of issue when your next drift goes wrong and you end up in a bush. Next up is the Ford Capri and Explorer. Models produced between August 2024 and May 2025 could have incorrectly tightened fastener screws. I have no clue what's meant by that, and there's no elaboration other than it could affect handling, braking, or steering control and cause an accident. So I guess go get your screws tightened? And the last creative way a Ford may kill you, sticking with the theme of terrorism and war crimes, is through gassing. Given Henry Ford's associations during World War II, this almost doesn't come as a surprise. E-Transit van models produced from August 2021 to September 2025 may have a gas leak from their 12-volt batteries. This gas will then leak into the vehicle cabin, causing a sort of chamber effect, if you will. You know the best part though? The country that found this issue was Germany. And I suppose it makes sense because they do have some practice with gas, so I guess it probably wasn't that hard to spot. Still, it went on for a good 4 years, so yeah, there are a lot of these vans out there that need looking at. Sticking with Germany, Porsche Taycan models, specifically the Turbo GT and Turbo GT with Weissach package, may see side airbags fail in a crash. Alternatively, the airbag could go off without warning or any reason to. The reason for this is that the seat adjustment mechanism may damage the airbag's wiring. So if you have one of these cars produced between April 2024 and December 2025, have it checked before you get the fright of your life on a nice Sunday drive. Nissan's been through it this week, racking up a few entries here too. In the US, certain Ultima models, Sentras, Frontiers, and Kicks are being recalled for badly welded door strikers. What this means is your door could fly open mid-journey, and just pray it doesn't smack someone walking along the sidewalk, or this simple fix will become one hell of a lawsuit. Affected vehicles are from last year and this year, with owners being notified on the 13th of March. In the EU, Nissan Townstars, which are just rebadged Renault Kangoo EVs, have rear door strikers that stand out in a way that could make you hit your head on them. As such, it seems all of them need some kind of fix to stop them trying to lobotomize their owners. Lastly, we have the French. And yet ironically kind of not, because the rest of the cars on this list are actually Stellantis products. So if you're French and you're taking offense to being called out here, blame the Italians. Citroën C4 and C4X models produced between January and February of 2023 don't seem to like their wheels turning. The rear axles on the cars could develop cracks and subsequently fracture. I think at highway speeds we can all agree an axle failing would be less than ideal, so please go have it looked at. The other Citroën on this list is the Berlingo van. Not content with just some cracks in an axle, Berlingo models have made sure the wheel definitely does come off. Wheel bolts on models produced between December 2023 and September 2025 may suddenly detach. Enough of these go and you'll be able to register it as a tricycle. But don't let the vehicle tax savings fool you. These vans are not designed to work with 3 wheels. And finally we come to the last car on the list, the Peugeot Rifter/Partner vans. As with the Berlingo, wheel nuts could come loose and send a wheel flying into a nearby intensive care unit. So if you have one of these vehicles produced between September 2023 and July 2025, save a few lives and please go get it fixed. And that is the end of the news for this week.